I want to start today by hearing the voices of the bisexual, gay, lesbian, transgender, and queer community and people of color first. Here is a commentator, Philippa Willits, who says this in her post, "7 things straight people aren't understanding about Orlando." The reality of attacking an LGBT nightclub means that some people have been outed against their will as well as terrorized. Some people only found out that their loved ones were gay when they found out they were dead, while other people survived the attack and will be afraid to even tell people that they were there and get the comfort and support they need. In Florida, those who survived the attack are forced to come out as a result, could even legally lose their jobs. And those gay men who turned up to give blood, desperate to help their community recover from the violence, found themselves turned away thanks to a draconian, homophobic blood donation ban. And this from a post titled, "Dear white hetero cis people, please do not co-opt this tragedy." If healing is what we want, then we must give the marginalized voices targeted by this tragedy the space to articulate their suffering. This is what will emancipate them of their pain. This is what will empower others in community who are suffering. If you are an ally, of course your suffering matters too, and you are welcome to express your emotions. But today, let the searing indictments and the heartbreaking personal accounts come from the queer people, and especially from queer communities of color. And from Islamic Monthly's Hina Tai. This is about casting blame about the Pulse killings. Blame is on those who say homophobia is solely a Muslim problem in order to further the cause of Islamophobia, rather than recognize America's historic oppression of LGBTQ people. Blame is on our political leaders who continue to think gun control is up for debate, while Obama gives his 18th presidential address in response to a mass shooting. Blame is on us who shame LGBTQ Muslims and make them unwelcome in their own mosques and communities rather than promoting inclusivity. Blame is also on us who, while condemning the violence, purposefully erase the identities of LGBTQ from their statements. Blame is on those who will use this opportunity for political capital. Blame is on anyone who cannot recognize that this shooting comes at an intersection of many different issues: homophobia, Islamophobia, political and religious extremism, gun violence, all issues which transcend or should transcend religious and political lines. And from our President, Barack Obama, last October, after the shootings at the community college. As I said just a few months ago, and I said just a few months before that, and I said each time we see one of these mass shootings, our thoughts and prayers are not enough. It does not capture the heartache and grief and anger that we should feel, and it does nothing to prevent this carnage from being inflicted someplace else in our nation next week or a couple of months from now. All of these words come from the brokenhearted, those whose hearts have been rent apart by having to bear more grief than a human being can bear. And this is a place many among us know well. Those who have been treated as less than human know this place. It can be a place of spiritual death, and it can also be a place of power. It is well known to some among us, as I said, and it's completely new to others. Someone out there I know is thinking, wait, I talked about gun violence. I said we are all humans. I said we should just take action. This today is not about guilt or shame. It is about complexity and the ways that oppressions intersect and the things that happen as a result, which could end the lives of 49 passionate human beings and change the scores of lives more instantly. We don't have to beat ourselves up for the places where we may have fallen short, what we chance to try to be the most perfect among us. We need to admit our brokenness and hear the voices, which our society silences and shames. We need to listen to them. Those who knew these lives lost, and those who know what those lives are like. Because there are other loud voices out there. If you've been not on the internet recently trying to find news of what happened at Pulse last weekend, try Googling it today. You will find more accounts and videos and postings about how it is a hoax, a fraud, how it never happened, how it's part of the anti-gun law than you will find actual supportive statements at this point. We need to pay attention. To our President, Barack Obama, who said we can no longer fail to act in the face of tragedy, that we must be able to simultaneously grieve and seize the moment for action when we are called to act. I want to thank you all for taking the time today to look at those faces, because our theology calls us to seek truth, and we need to be able to see the deep, true trauma of a people who know what it means to have a safe space violated in that way. The pain of the people who can see themselves in those people gathered to celebrate and be with one another in a joyous way. And also the pain of the people who can see themselves in the shooter as one who had been ostracized for other identities, or perhaps, we don't know, tormented by internalized oppressions, messages taken in either way about what you need to do to be okay in our world. We need to see the pain of the people of color who know that no statement can be factually correct that tries to name one amid countless horrors in the history of this country which have been perpetrated as the worst. There's no contest among them. We need to see hearts that have sustained damage because they cannot bear the weight of their day-to-day life, and that sometimes they have to be broken open to new ways of being. Because if we cannot see these things now that this has happened, we cannot minister to the brokenhearted among us. As David said, as people of faith, we offer love instead of hate as our response. We need to understand that this series of events, and this event in particular, will either be the point where we look back at a time when hate multiplied in our nation, or the place where more and more of us decided to live on the side of love, as our own acting assistant minister, Renwa Hamami, has named it, living on the side of love. In order to live on the side of love, we must be able to see our commonalities and also to see our true differences. In the face of these events, this series of events, these mass killings that seem to come with regularity, many of us have learned a sort of helplessness, which President Obama named this week as he names each week after these events. We say there is nothing we can do. We say even now that we don't have the heart to look at these events, that we want to be in places where we don't have to talk about them. But the 49 Orlando martyrs and their partners and parents and family members do not have that choice, and neither do we. We need to listen before trying to fix and solve, because what people who are most affected are telling us is, do not look away. Take care of ourselves and let this be a chance to see where we each, no matter where we are in our identities, have hurts and difficulties which need to be attended, and engage in acts of resistance, no matter how small, and most of all, don't be silent. Again, the wisdom of Philippa Hillitz, who advises us, it doesn't go without saying, say it. Many of us here feel like we have lost members of our own community, even when we have lived in different countries. We share a history with those who died. We share a world that is tough and that is still frightening to live in. Because of this, you may think that we're okay, that it goes without saying that you're not homophobic, that you condemn the attacks and the people who shout abuse in the streets and the senators who legislate to make our lives harder. But it doesn't go without saying. We need to hear it, so tell us. Our Unitarian Universalist theology says that every one of the lives taken or wounded or affected by the Pulse massacre are precious, that our lives are intertwined and bound together. We do not believe that bad things happen to people because they are destined, and I cannot say loud enough or often enough that we do not believe that bad things happen because some people are inherently bad. We need to look at the fact that during the 15-hour filibuster on gun control last week, more than 40 lives were again affected by gun violence. That the nation has had more than 300 mass shootings involving more than 4 lives before this year is even half over. That many more people die in individual shootings than die in mass shootings, and that the vast majority of people who die in those shootings are suicides. We want to rid the world of hate, then we need to accept the fact that hate in its many forms, including self-hatred, is our longer-term project, and in the nearer term, we cannot allow hate to be expressed through the barrel of a weapon. Naming these truths out loud is one of the small acts of resistance that are life-giving and that can break us out of lethargy and despair. There are other acts as well. You can make a contribution to our collection to the Rainbow Center, which is another sanctuary space in our community. You can sign one of the cards that Renoir has prepared for some of the communities most affected in our space. You can sign up for our Living on the Side of Love list, because that's where we're going to be informing people of the actions that need to be taken when our allies on this tell us what they need us to do around LGBTQ rights and also gun control. You can just take the time to write a note or give a call to someone beloved to you whose sexual orientation or gender identity puts them at risk. Take the time to simply say, I value you, you are whole to me, I want to be of help if you need something. What we can also do is not, by the way, flood people with requests to meet and have coffee and do things to hear that we are on the right side, unless they want that to happen. But there are many small things we can do to help us claim our power. This is not the topic with which I planned to end this congregational year. But more relevant are the countless dates, vacations, dinners, work trips planned by the 49 people that will now be permanently left undone, along with those play dates for the Sandy Hook families, the San Bernardino families, the prayer nights for the Charleston victims, the parties and study dates from the Umpqua Community College students. Today, those among us who are BGLTQ and people of color and Muslim need spaces to heal their hearts, and those of us who do not share those identities have some work to do. We need to talk less and listen more, to be silent to hear the cries of our siblings who have suffered an incomprehensible loss, to sit in the discomfort and complexity where no one clear answer exists and there is no way to fix it, to understand that hate kills and limit the ability of those who hate to do so, to take this opportunity to read and view and learn about the pains of these oppressions so that we can make this congregation a place where we would say, as Maddie's song does, "Sunshine, you deserve to live." We need to resist the urge to tell all the bisexual, gay, lesbian, transgender, queer, and questioning people in our lives, or our Latino co-workers, or the man you think looks Muslim, your opinions about the Pulse tragedy and how it could have been avoided, but tell them instead that you see and affirm their inherent worth and dignity, and to do this in quiet, unobtrusive ways, centered on caring for them. We need to step up when asked and make this be more than a moment of silence. We need to pledge not to look away and not to forget this Pulse massacre, even when the news cycle does. We who believe in the universal worth of the human spirit know that the human heart is resilient, that there is nothing wrong with brokenness. A broken heart can be the best receptacle of wisdom, only though, if nurtured in love. So every one of you, may you know that you are good, may you know that you are loved, and may you know that you are part of the hope for the world, and sing from that spirit, so that we may make this place a place that offers solace to every broken heart in need. May we be the ones to make it so.